Hi, Hadi. Nice to see you here for speaking about risk management.
Thanks for having me.
You are a cybersecurity advisor and trainer.
Exactly.
And today you will talk about cybersecurity and risk management. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, what about risk management?
Risk management. What about risk management? I think that companies and corporations, whether in the private or public sector, have to deal on a daily basis with risks. Companies exist because they take risk. The challenge is to be able to measure this risk, to deal with it, and to learn to live with the residual risk that stays here after having dealt with the major part of it. So the idea when it comes to risk management is to have a solid risk management methodology, to have it endorsed by top management, and to give it the capability of following up with processes, with interdependencies, and to be able to cope with challenges and threats of an interconnected world. Yeah.
Okay, and what about the management? You need to be supported by your managers.
If you don't have sponsorship in enterprise risk management, in operational risk management, you will be able maybe to comply here and there with a standard, with a regulator, with a controller. But in order for you to sleep with serenity when you are a top manager, you need to have this enterprise risk management framework and culture that is embedded at all levels of an organization.
Okay, and what it include in risk, operational risks? Sorry.
I like to define risk with one sentence, okay, and hopefully it will be understood by your students. So, a risk is constituted whenever a threat agent is capable of exploiting a vulnerability on a given asset while circumventing existing security controls. Okay, let me rephrase it. The risk equation is built upon 4 artifacts, 4 values that need to be measured, dealt with. First one is the asset. And by asset, I don't mean the table or the chair or the server or the database. By asset, when it comes to operational asset, I mean the data. Okay? What do we need to protect in information systems? We need to protect the payroll. We need to protect the PIN number of a credit card when we are working in banking. We need, when we are a telco, we need to protect the HLR, which is the database of all our mobile subscribers. So these are our assets. This is the first artifact of the equation. The second one is the vulnerabilities. Information systems are constituted of a myriad of IT components. Laptops, databases, servers, cloud hosting, etc., etc., etc. So we need to be able to measure vulnerabilities that impact these IT components. The third part of the equation is the threat. Let me take an analogy here. If you have a house that is just near a street, and you left your home while forgetting this on the table, and you left the house and you forgot your window open. You came back in the evening and your phone was still there. So my asset is the phone. My vulnerability is the window that I left open. But at the end of the day, I didn't have any risk. Why? Because no one came nearby my home with the intention of breaking in with the intention of exploiting this open window vulnerability and with the intention of stealing my phone. So even if I have inventoried my assets, even if I have measured my vulnerabilities, I need also to measure the threats. And this is where we have a lot of weaknesses in risk analysis and risk management methodologies. Because risk management and risk analysis methodologies come with, you know, like a list of potential threats. Earthquake, crash of an airplane, large hacking, distributed denial of service, etc., etc. And since we are speaking about this with an international audience, it's composed by your students, it is clear that a threat that is feared in Japan is not the same that is feared in Algeria, it's not the same that is feared in Saudi Arabia, it's not the same in the States. So when it comes to threat analysis, you need to contextualize your threat measure and analysis. And this is where your risk management approach should also bring in the negotiations, in the brainstorming, in the analysis, you need to bring in the people within your corporation that deal with competitive intelligence, economical security. When you are an innovative industrial, SMEs, small and medium company, you fear the most maybe competition before fearing a state-sponsored attack. So in the risk analysis equation, you need also to deal with the threat. Okay? And have a solid threat assessment. And the fourth and last component of this risk with risks measurement equation is your existing security risk. The challenge, when I said that the risk is not to measure only risk, when a threat deal with it is capable of exploiting a vulnerability to live with the residual risk while circumventing after having dealt to be aware of what are the existing security controls that you have put in place, and that could be circumvented in order to attain this asset. So you need to cover all these. And if you don't cover all these, you would here and there comply with the maybe an auditor that is not that pushy or that picky. But in order to have something that is exhaustive, that is comprehensive, that you can live with, that will allow you to grow your business, to comply, and to sleep tightly at night, when you are a top manager, you need to cover all these four constituents of the risk management equation.
Okay, so I understand everything, but my question is right now, is the risk the same in a small company or in a big company? I don't know.
I think that the main difference is in the means that are invested, that could be invested. But when you talk about a large corporation, you imagine that in order to deploy such a risk management framework, you need to put and involve several stakeholders. And the main difficulty in large corporations is that these stakeholders live and work in silos, and they have lost the capability of interacting, of communicating, of exchanging ideas, of, you know, losing a bit, gaining a bit. So in large corporations, the challenge is this transversality in risk management. Whereas in a small corporation, if you have a solid sponsorship and you have an intimate belief of top management that you need to deal with risks, bringing in around the same table all these stakeholders is easier and less costly. So this is the main difference between both. But when it comes to the philosophy of risk management, it's the same.
Okay, but a small company don't have the cash for get a a risk manager or something like that. So is the manager to do the job, or what's going on?
When you are a small company, you don't need to diversify, roles and responsibilities. But at the same time, you shouldn't give the risk management authority or responsibility to your IT management or to your IT support guys. Why? Because, as I told you, you need to have a listening ear from your top manager, from your CEO. And you need also to be equidistant when it comes to your business lines. So if you deal with risk management while you are an IT manager, you cannot control yourself. Because IT managers have this obsession. They need to get things done and published and online very quickly. So they don't like to have controls, to have maybe complex passwords, to have complex organizational processes before going live. So if you control yourself, if you are a security officer and at the same time you are an IT manager, you are at the same time controlling yourself. So this is why I think even in small corporations you have someone that deals with IT. You have someone that deals also with financial and control management. So I prefer that risk management fall into a financial manager or a CEO rather than give it to an IT manager.
Okay, so I understand for IT manager. So my question is now, what about cybersecurity in a company? Is the role of the IT manager now?
The problem with the word cybersecurity is that it's a word that doesn't include risk, the word risk in it. So gradually, and we are a lot of security practitioners and advisors that are trying to push towards a much more frequent use of risk, cyber risk or digital risk rather than cybersecurity. Why? Because security is a static state, and you think that security is a level to achieve, to attain, and once you attain it, it's here and it won't move, it won't evolve. Whereas your company, your processes, your data flows on a daily basis, they move. On a daily basis you expand, on a daily basis you export, on a daily basis you create subsidiaries in the Far East, in the States, and the company grows. So you need to have a scheme that is contextual and dynamic. Cybersecurity is a part of operational risk. Okay, having a virus or a worm that infects your IT system is something that will impact your business processes, something that will induce denial of service. This is something that will impact your business continuity. So yes, it's part of risk management, but you need to really deal with it as a part of a global scheme.
Okay, so my question every time is the cybersecurity the same in a small company and big companies? It's really different, and I have a second question that is the same for when you want to protect your company and you want to protect your employees. I think it's not similar, but what is your opinion?
I am convinced that in order to win the cybersecurity challenge, we need to convince the end user, the citizen, of potential risks. Once he has a minimum security culture, it will be easier in an SME to raise his awareness. It will be easier in an SME to have him comply with your security policy. It will be easier for a large corporation to convince him that when he leaves his workstation for the lunch break, he needs to lock his screen. The main difficulty is that whether in small corporations or in large corporations, the security policy and the security charts use a language that is not understood by the tens and hundreds and thousands of employees. You have these employees signing documents, whereas they don't understand 2/3 of what's being written. Because 2/3 of your employees are not IT savvy. They don't understand what is a cloud hosting, or what is a log, or what is a security mechanism. So you need a lot of pedagogy when you address your employees, when you address the citizens, whether on a small scale, on a medium scale, or on a larger scale. So this is why it's extremely important when you deal with cybersecurity, when you deal with operational risk, it's extremely important to speak risk and speak security in a language that is understood by your end users, that is understood by your business lines, and that is understood by top management. And this is where the main problems arise in this field of work.
I just have a question, because I know a lot of small companies. It's about cybersecurity. A lot of small companies get, their email accounts on Google and Gmail. So, and a lot of them was cracked by others, and they lose everything. They lose contacts, they lose agenda, they lose extra task, extra. So what could you do when you are a small company, when you are 2 or 3 in a company, and you get all your contacts and IT systems on other companies like Google or something like that?
Let us take this great example of a startup, with 2-3 guys. And today, using Gmail, using Google Apps, etc., is something that allows you to really reduce costs when you are, in a bootstrap mode. So I'm not advocating not using these technologies, at the contrary. But at the same time, you need to know that you are giving an external party, an external provider, an external hosting company, you are providing him with a set of data. And here you need to make a choice. Do you need to give him all the data, all the time, without any encryption, without any password protection on your files? Do you need to give him everything? Do you need to put all your eggs in one basket? Or do you need, when you are 2 or 3 people, to sit down during half a day, or 2 hours, or half an hour, or whatever, and say, look, we are a startup company, we have an innovative idea here, we have some sensitive files here, we have our pricing and costing model here. We will decide that for each one of these, whenever we are bound to exchange it via an external provider, we will use a free encryption mechanism, tool. There are a lot of tools that are accessible to even non-IT savvy persons, and that could be used punctually when you have to exchange, sensitive files, even on Gmail and Google. So you can still use these because they are free, because they are flexible, and because sometimes they guarantee you a certain business continuity. You have certain providers like Google with Google Contacts. You know that even if you lose your smartphone, if your smartphone is synced and synchronized with Google, you will get your contacts on another smartphone, even if this one gets stolen or crashed. So these tools are great tools, free tools, but you need also to know that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, and you should also know that for extremely sensitive files, either you don't use these tools or you use them while using encryption, and there are a lot of encryption tools that could be used.
Yeah, so there is another question that, because when you are a startup, you start with Gmail Extra, but there is also other tools like cloud. There is any backup of cloud. What about my data on those tools?
It depends. It depends. You know, when you deal with cloud, which is an external hosting company, okay? A cloud company is Google. Google is a cloud company. Yahoo is a cloud company, etc., etc., etc. Apple, with the iCloud, also is a cloud company. And here it depends on the service level agreement and the contract you signed with these guys. Either you are an end user, a citizen, or a very small company, and you know that you don't weigh a lot when it comes to negotiation with Apple or Google, or you are a large corporation. Let me take the example of Veille in France. Veille in France, which is in the automotive industry, has moved all his emails and all his exchanges to the cloud, to Google. But before doing that, he spent 2 years negotiating a very solid contract with the cloud hosting company, and he gave himself the right to audit the infrastructure of the cloud, because it's a large company. Veille is a large company that could do that. He imposed that the hosting and the data centers be in France, or at least in Europe, etc., etc. So also it's communicating vases. You know, what you lose somewhere, you can gain it elsewhere. The flexibility and cost reduction that is allowed by the cloud should be balanced by a much more granular, exhaustive, and thought service level agreement and contract. And here you have, I think, a lot of room for law specialists and legal specialists that should pop in and also help risk managers, help CEOs with drafting and negotiating such contracts, because the control here will be a legal one and not a technical one, because data goes beyond your own perimeter.
Okay, how to become a value company. So, but yeah, we talk about cyber, we talk about operational risks. So my question is now, what about the context of the risk, and is there some methods or something like that to help companies to improve their risk management?
Exactly. I spoke earlier about one of the hiccups of risk management, and one of the difficulties that face this field of work is that first of all, you deal with risk and you deal with cybersecurity while not speaking security and risk in the language of the business. If you are a risk manager or a security officer or whatever, and you go and ask the head of credit card requests in a bank, and you tell him, look, the infrastructure that is used to deliver credit cards to the customers is composed of a Windows 2008 server that is in a 3-tier architecture, and you have an end-of-day batch that goes to a third-party supplier to print the physical card, etc. So, what are your security needs on that? You are speaking a language that is not understood by a top manager, that is not understood by someone whose IT is not part of the job. So, you need, first of all, when you deal with risk, you need to accept something. It is for IT guys, risk managers, and security officers to move closer to the business, and it's not for the business to move closer to IT. Okay, so it's not, historically IT guys have constrained, have tried to impose on business guys to be aware of all technical jargon, cloud, BIOD, DLP, firewalls, etc. And it's a big mistake. So my advice, whenever you deal with risk, is to move a step closer to the center of the table. You have in front of you someone that deals on a daily basis with his business processes. You are someone that on a daily basis deal with IT, deal with security. So let us meet at the middle of the table. And the middle of the table is a language, a universal language, which is the data flow language. So when you go to interview a business line about operational risk, about business impact analysis, about all these constituents of risk analysis, you should, as a starter, agree with your interlocutor on a story, on a customer story. And this customer story is something that should be understood by a 5-year-old. And this story is the following one. Let us take a credit card example in a banking establishment. So the story will be, the customer comes to the front office asking for a new Visa card. The teller makes him fill out a form. The form is entered later on by the back office in the database. And there's an end of day batch that goes to third-party applier, and you describe the whole data flow. When you describe the whole data flow, the IT guys understand what's being said. The business guy understands what's being said. And it is on this customer story that you perform business impact analysis, that you perform your threat analysis, that you perform your risk analysis. So the first thing is to agree on a common language, okay? Yeah. And to break these silos. This is the first thing. The second thing is to be able to maintain this way of doing things on the long run. You did it in July 2014. What about July 2015? What about January 2017? How will you be able of maintaining this risk analysis scheme up to date, whereas your data flows change, your business processes change, your company grows, etc. So first thing, you need to agree on a language and interface with business process modeling and management. And the second thing is you need also to put updating thresholds. So whenever your business changes, whenever you have new employees, whenever you have new recruits and you have people that leave the company, whenever you export new services, whenever you create new lines of services, whenever you go and export your services to China, to Australia, to whatever, you need to have triggering thresholds. And these triggering thresholds will be alarms that will tell you need to update your risk analysis scheme. You need to perform a new risk analysis on a new line of business that you are introducing. So it's a complex issue, but when you are convinced of this, you are capable of integrating it into a global governance scheme and transforming it into a reflex. So when cybersecurity and risk management become a reflex, you start winning the battle against threats. Whenever it's not a reflex, whenever you feel it as an obstacle, you will try to circumvent it, and while circumventing it, you will induce new risks and create new vulnerabilities. So the challenge to win, you need to include this into a global governance scheme and have the support of your top management and of your employees. It's a lot of communication, it's a lot of pedagogy, and it's really a transversal way of approaching things. If you don't deal with risk management in a transversal way, you won't win the battle, unfortunately.
Okay, I understand. So, but my question is, in your opinion, what is a good risk manager? His background, or I don't know.
A good risk manager is someone that is a silo bridger. Okay.
Yeah.
When you see, analyze, and read all the new trends of organizational resilience within corporations and companies, you see that we need to give more power, not to the head of silos, but you need to give power to people that are capable of bridging the gap between silos. I love, the analogy with, the translators. When you see heads of state that are in negotiation or in meetings, you see that there's someone between them with an earplug. And the risk manager is really this earplug between silos that have their own languages, that have their own constraints. He needs to be here to translate. He understands the challenges that are facing IT guys, but he also understands the constraints of business representatives. So he's a translator. He's a common denominator. So once he has this mindset, he can equip himself with a set of tools, whether from the business process management discipline, whether from the communication discipline, whether from the visual thinking discipline, and he will have this tool set that will allow him to put all these guys around the same table, agree on a common language, and assume the same measured risk. So first of all, he's a communicator and he's a silo bridger.
Yeah, okay, but, and do you think we need to learn risk management at school, at university, or at business school?
Yes, I think that maybe you don't need to have I don't know, a 200 hours course of risk management, but you should have a minimum risk management culture. We live in a world where, because of interdependencies, because of media, because of 24/7 hour news feed, we are delving into a world where you hear about earthquakes, you hear about hacking, you hear about Snowden, you hear about the NSA. So you have this atmosphere, and to be able to remain focused, to stay focused on your business, in order not to go into fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is a great threat to our discipline, which is in order to get things done, I will instigate fear in you. It's not good. So in order to live in this world with serenity, you need to have a minimum culture of risk management. And risk management, as I told you, is someone that starts at home, that starts maybe when you have children with your children, that starts in a small company with these 3 startuppers, and that goes by extrapolation in a large company. So you need to have a minimum culture on risk management and know that risk is constituted of this, and that. Afterwards, are you an expert in this methodology or that to measure risks? Are you capable of negotiating with a cyber insurer or with an insurance companies, with actuaries? This is something that comes later on. But as a starter, you need not to mix terms. I have dealt and interviewed with a lot of CEOs, risk managers, security officers that mix words. The asset for them is the IT asset, the threat is the risk, and the risk is the impact, etc. So you need to agree on a common set of terms, and from there on, you should equip yourself gradually with tools, knowledge, methodologies to address your own needs in terms of risk management.
Okay, I have a last question for you, and it's about business intelligence. Do you consider risk management a part of business intelligence or something to support business intelligence?
I think that these two disciplines need to communicate and exchange knowledge and ideas between themselves. As I told you earlier, when it comes to the threat, the threat part of the risk equation, business intelligence will allow you to understand what are the parts of your business that appeal most to your competitors. This way, you will be able to feed the risk manager with this crucial information by telling him, look, we have deployed the business intelligence framework, and statistically and prospectively, it is telling us that we have a really innovative part of our business that is extremely appealing to our competitor. that is extremely appealing to a certain party in a given country where we want to export our knowledge. So this information, when you give it to the risk manager, he will be able to feed it, to put it into the risk equation, and he will be able to put priorities on actions. So he will put a given focus with the cybersecurity officer on the databases, servers, workstations, parts of the information system that deal with this given innovative, appealing part. So these two should work together, because if you are not aware of the threats, if you are not aware of your strength, and you are not aware of your weaknesses, you won't be able to have a solid risk management scheme.
Okay, thank you very much, Hadi. Thanks for your time and your presentation today. Really, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.